I want to bring you a little bit of an update on the fuel situation. This is coming from government sources, talking to Mark Broyd, Business Deployment Editor at BBC London. A government source has confirmed reports 16% of all petrol stations are now fully supplied, compared to around 10% at the weekend. Clearly an improvement. However, the source added that 40% of petrol stations being supplied was a more normal figure. So it gives you a sense of the gap that still has to be filled before the government's hope that this is going to be a problem that naturally dissipates as people get the message, if they are getting the message, that there's no shortage of fuel. Although, of course, if you're in a petrol queue or you get to a pump and there's none left, it kind of feels like there is a shortage. Let's talk now to Steve McNamara. Steve McNamara is General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association, the London Licensed Cabbie. Steve, good to speak to you again. What's the situation your members have been experiencing as it's reported to you in London today?
Yeah, we don't recognise what the government is saying. This 16% of stations have got fuel. That is not the situation in London. I'm speaking to cab drivers all day long. We're monitoring our social media feeds. And at the moment, we estimate that we've got probably 25% of cab drivers, black cab drivers in London, unable to work because they cannot find fuel. Those that have managed to find it have been driving out onto the motorway network, where Highways England are trying to keep these stations full so people don't run out on the motorways. So you've got taxi drivers driving from the centre of London onto the M25 to get fuel if and when they can find it or join a queue. You've seen the videos that I have of fights and arguments at petrol stations, and those that have got fuel, as you know, our queue is nothing. So this sort of don't panic, Captain Mannering that we're hearing from the government is just really not good enough. What is needed is they need to do exactly what they did in September 2000, which was the last fuel crisis, where the then Secretary of State signed an order enabling emergency, they called it essential users, and the local authorities around the country, and in London that was Transport for London and Ken Livingstone back then, and they designated a number of stations for essential workers, so health service, emergency workers, taxi drivers were included on that list.
And what impact did that have?
That pretty much resolved the panic, because what happened then, and I strongly suspect that's going to happen this week if things don't improve, is you're going to start hearing stories of health workers not being able to get to work. We're taking a lot of calls from care agencies, the people that provide carers to go around in the community, and they're saying to us, can you provide a taxi and a driver because our carers have got no fuel? We're saying to them, possibly, but possibly not, because we haven't got any. Once those stories start to make their way into the mainstream media, and we start to hear sagas, doctors not being able to get to hospitals and ambulance staff not being able to get to work, then it's going to be a real crisis. And so what they need to do is alleviate that problem now, issue this order. Grant Shapps can literally do it at the swipe of a pen. The London Mayor, we know Sadiq has asked him to do it. We know Transport for London have asked him to do it. And they're sort of holding on, hoping that it goes away. And I'm no soldier, but, I've seen all the films and read books. And what they say is, you hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And that's what they should be doing, rather than this don't panic, Captain Mannering mantra, which we seem to be seeing now.
Steve McNamara of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association in London, thanks very much.